Hello and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther, and today I'm going to share with you what I'm winter sowing this weekend. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know I used to have a process where I'd go by certain categories. I'd do flowers first and then I'd switch to peppers or whatever order. But that was just because I just wanted to get them out and make sure I got each category done. But I find it also kind of fun to winter sow things in whatever order I feel like. So this year I have a container. These are all the things I want to winter sow this year. Some of them are for direct sowing as well, but this is mostly winter sowing. You can see my tomatoes must grow and my flowers must grow packets. Might be a little bit ambitious. This year I was like, I'm only going to do a few varieties, and then yeah, right. When have I ever been able to hold back? So if this is your first time hearing about winter sowing, it's basically a way of growing seedlings outdoors and things like milk jugs instead of indoors under grow lights. And I grow about 90 to 95% of my plants this way. The reason why I'm not using a particular order this year is partly because other than spring crops, other than things you need to transplant in March, they're the first things I put out because they're the first thing I transplant, and I'm going to be transplanting in March, and we're at the beginning of March. So I have a couple of cool weather crops I'm going to be winter sowing today. But other than that, there's really no order in which I have to do things. I've already got some kale out, and I do keep a journal of what I winter sow. Yeah, I did red Russian kale and dinosaur kale. Somebody in a gardening group I was in recently posted a link to seed sellers that are run by minorities, particularly Black women. And these ladies, this Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance is based in Maryland, which whenever I can support like not only a private business, a minority business, but also a business in my area, I haven't reached out to them. I'm not affiliated with them anyway. So I'm not getting anything for this, but whenever I can support a local business, especially, and from seeds that have been saved in my area because it's a local cooperative, I know they're growing them locally. So these seeds are more likely to do well in my area. So I'm growing Ethiopian kale. And if I remember correctly, I'll show a picture. The kale leaves look a little bit almost like a spinach leaf. It's supposed to have a texture similar to like a lacinato kale, which means it's like softer and smoother. And then I've never grown collard greens before, but I've always kind of wanted to. And these are called Whaley's Favorite Cabbage Collards. And these are supposed to be a little milder as a collard. Sometimes for me, they're just a little too bitter. So hopefully these will do well. All right, we'll put the Ethiopian kale on this side. Now this is fresh seeds. These are from this year. So I'm only going to do five seeds, I think, because I'm already growing a lot of other kale plants and I don't know if I'm going to like these, and also I just won't have the space to plant that many kale plants in my garden. So all right, I'm going to do 3 up front and then 2 in the back. So dropping 1. These are dark seeds, can't see them that well. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you know I do 1 seed per hole. And the reason for that is the germination rates, especially for newer seeds, newer varieties, are just so good that pretty much all of them are going to sprout. And also because it's easier to separate the seedlings if they're not all intertangled with each other right up next to each other. Let's do next the collard greens. I'm only going to do 4 because I don't know how much I like collard greens and I don't want to dedicate a huge amount of space in my garden to it. 1, 2, 3, I think that's 4. And then I just put a nice thin layer over the top. Now I'm excited because today I'm going to pick up my weed whacker. If you watched earlier this year, you saw that one of my goals for this year for keeping up with the weeds in my garden is to have a really nice electric weed whacker. And I've been saving up the money from what I make for my YouTube channel, which in the winter I make a little bit more because winter sowing is so popular. And I have enough to saved up now to get a really nice one. It's about $330, I think, an electric one that's 60 volts. So it'll have more, most of them are 20 volt, but a 60 volt will have more power to it. Hopefully be able to take down some of the weeds that are a little bit chunkier, a little bit more woody. So I'm gonna go pick that up today. And then of course, you know, if I'm gonna order somebody to take, if I'm gonna do pickup, if I'm gonna do like curbside, I'm gonna have compost, right? I don't have to haul it to my car. So I'm getting 10 bags of leaf grow as well today to take to my garden. I usually use probably 10 to 15 bags of Leaf Grow. Leaf Grow is a leaf mulch compost that in the Maryland, Delaware, Virginia area, I'm not sure what all states, but I know that it's like a local composting thing. And it's only like, it used to be $4 a bag, now it's like $5.25 a bag, but it's not bad. It's time to draw because this is a 2-part container. Draw the line as a reminder to myself and let me label it. So this side is the Ethiopian kale. And this side is the collards. And today is, pretty sure today's the 3rd. It won't make that big of a difference, whether it's the 3rd or 4th. So put this over here. And if you have a puddle of liquid afterwards, I just pour it back in. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do in a singular container. Jewels of Opar. So Jewels of Opar is another flower arrangement filler. I haven't ever grown it before, and I've actually had it on my wish list for a couple of years. So Jewels of Opar, it's sort of like baby's breath, except it has like these little red beads on it, supposedly. Okay, so they're small. They're kind of like the size of poppy seeds, I think. And I'm just going to sprinkle them. And they're this small. It's really hard to it's hard to really be too precise. In fact, I might just do it this way. They might have all fallen in the same place, so maybe I'll just do a little bit more. I may have to do the hunk of seedling. And even when my hands are dry, it's still sticking to them, so these guys are going to be all over. I looked it up, and these seeds need light to germinate. So I'm going to just spray over them, and this, by spraying on them, it helps them adhere to the surface. The next thing I'm going to be winter sowing is 2 tomato varieties. One is Omar Lebanese tomatoes, and these are disease resistant. I'm really emphasizing disease resistant varieties this year. It's a pink tomato beefsteak, and it takes about 80 days. And I love beefsteak tomatoes, and I love pink tomatoes, so I think it'll be good. And the other one that I'm doing is Krishna's Gujarat Village. This is from Bunny Hop Seeds. See? And this is good in hot and humid climates. It was originally, it's an heirloom from India, so they're fairly small, and it's supposed to be very flavorful. This is a determinate plant, which means it'll set most of its fruit at the same time. So we'll do this one first. Now, because I'm doing half jugs, and because I don't need a lot of this kind of tomato, I'm probably only gonna do 4 seeds per side. I don't mind giving away tomato plants, but I don't want to be like in the past where I had like hundreds to pot up and give away. It's expensive to pot that many up and to give away. And while I love sharing with the community, there's not a whole lot of seeds in this packet anyway, because I gave quite a few away. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do 5. I gave quite a few away in a seed swap, so I want to save a couple for next year. All right, so we have 5, so that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just cover them over. That's fine. I think I'm only going to do 3 seeds of these because I only like want 1 or 2 of these. Oh, there we go. Oh, I forgot the spray. Fit another one over here, just barely. There's 2 native plants I am going to be growing this year. If you've been following my channel, you know that I try to grow in my home gardens. So at home I have mostly shade. I do have some full sun beds, but my backyard is part shade or mostly shade. And the nice thing about growing native plants is that they they can handle just about any kind of sun condition. They may do better in part shade, they may do better in part sun, depending on the variety. But for most native plants, you can grow them just about anywhere. So that's a really wonderful thing about them. And it kind of frees up, and also they're all usually perennials, which means they come back on their own every year. So 2 native varieties I'm growing one is blue vervain, and this can tolerate moist soil. Flowers have spikes of blue-violet flowers. They can grow between 24 to 48 inches tall, and I'm guessing that has to do with how much sun they get. And they are a late bloomer, so they're summer to early fall, so they're a good food source for pollinators in the fall when other sort of flowers aren't around as much. And they also have medicinal value. They can be a relaxant. They're good for people who are anxious overthinkers. I can definitely be an overthinker sometimes myself. The other one I'm winter sowing is Blazing Star. This is also a native plant, and it has these beautiful spikes. I'll find a photo of them. I got from someone. I got them a year ago, so I'm just going to put a lot of them in, and it's kind of hard. You can see what the seeds look like. You can tell these probably reseed pretty well on their own. So I'm going to just put a whole bunch down, and then I'm going to do a nice healthy layer of potting mix on top. Oops, that was Blazing Star. All right. That actually makes more sense because blue vervain is tiny, tiny seeds. I mean, look how tiny the blue vervain seeds are. That's why I was confused for a minute. All right. That's the nice thing about having movable labels. Look how tiny those seeds are. And sometimes I like to experiment with doing like a little bit of a cover for some and not for others, just in case they like to be covered. So I'm going to cover one corner, and then that way, if they need light to germinate, that side will germinate. If they need darkness and need a little bit of covering to germinate, that side will germinate. And maybe both sides will germinate. Part of the reason why I don't mind crowding natives is plants tend to be hardier in general, but they also can be smaller when they first start out. They really don't, they get nice root systems, but natives really take a year or 2 to get established once you transplant them. So you can do them, you can do them in a slightly more crowded situation and they'll do fine. Now for a jug like this, I like to cut on the crease because that allows me to put the tape on the other side of the crease, which helps get a better seal. Blue vervain. All right, next up are 2 vining seeds, squash. There's the Italian cucuzzi squash. This is a long green squash. It's edible in the summer, and then a loofah loofah squash. This is the black loofahs. I'm also going to try growing some white loofahs this year. And I love the idea of making my own sponges. I love the idea of being able to make gifts for people in the winter of soaps with loofah sponges and scrubs and all kinds of things. The cucuzzi squash seeds are actually quite large. You see that? And when a seed's this big, it tells me that this plant's going to be pretty enthusiastic. So I don't know which end is up. I'm guessing this end is probably up, but I just like to push it in like that, a little bit below the surface. And I'm definitely going to put a layer on top. Those guys probably get a pretty good root structure. And these loofah seeds, I actually traded with someone who, a viewer who wrote in and wanted to exchange some flower seeds with me. And I don't normally do that, but her email was so nice and I thought, oh, why not? So, and I needed loofah seeds. I had it on my list of things to get. So she sent me these. So I haven't opened them up. I don't know what they're going to look like, but the way she described saving them, it sounds like she did it right. Oh yeah, they look great. All right, I'm gonna do 4 seeds. I'm just gonna set them here and then I'll push them in. I always find it fun to push seeds in, do you? Put a nice layer on top. The flower that I'm winter sowing today is Apricot Foxglove. If I recall correctly, Foxglove takes 2 years. It takes 1 year to kind of set itself up, and the second year to produce flowers, but I love how it looks, and I'm gonna have it in my cut flower bed so I can have it sort of a filler in the back next to zinnias and stuff until the year that it can actually produce flowers. Oh, that's way too many seeds. If I sprinkle that many, I will end up with a lot more than I want. All right, so it does say to put a tiny bit of cover on it, 1/2 inch, so I'm gonna just put a tiny layer on top. Now, one thing I'm really excited to try growing this year is asparagus. I've never grown asparagus before, and this is purple asparagus that I swapped in a seed exchange for. So I got this, this is an oil bottle, canola oil bottle I got through the Buy Nothing group. I know asparagus shoots can get pretty tall. I'm not sure how fast they grow to their height, but I figured this is a good one because it's got lots of room for headspace. You know what? I'm gonna do them all. I'm gonna do them all in here because I don't know how well the germination rate's gonna be. They were saved from 2022. So I think I'm gonna break my 1 seed per hole rule, and I'm just gonna sprinkle them. And then I'm just gonna cover them. Not quite all the way. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and happy winter sowing, and see you next time.